Hey, everybody, it's Mike. I'm here. Ooh, look at that. I'm too sexy. There we go. Okay, much better. Let's get right into the intro. All right, so yeah, thanks for joining me on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to talk about Hare Krishna and cults and all that stuff. Um, so first I want to. Hey, did you like the opening? Oh my goodness, that's the most expensive part of this whole production. Is that opening? It's fantastic. Um, but anyway, Hare Krishna. Hey, Rune. I'm glad you're here because I'm going to talk about um, my being in the Hare Krishnas and all kinds of stuff. I really don't know what I'm going to talk about, but I really want to apologize to all my viewers and people watching on the replay for swearing, cussing, getting excited, getting angry, losing my cool, all of that. I don't need to apologize for that, but hey, if it freaks you out, then I'm sorry. But I'm like a comedian, so I'm gonna laugh at things that aren't appropriate, and I'm gonna laugh at things that are inappropriate. So just bear with me. And I'm gonna use profanity sometimes, and I'm gonna rant and rave like Bill Burr or Lewis Black. Yeah. And anybody comes into my chat and they start trying to promote their cult, um, I'm not, I'm not taking it. So even though I don't owe this apology to anybody, I've just thrown it out there that this is who I am. This is who I am, and hey, that's it. So and when these guys come into my chat, like I guess they're starting to do that. I guess I don't know. I've been doing this for 3 or 4 months now, and this is the first time I've had these Hare Krishna guys come in and start doing this, and I knew they would do it because I guess I'm just surprised that I'm surprised they found me. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but anyway. I am going to get agitated, and I am going to get angry, and I am going to rant and rave because my daughter was molested by these freaks, and see, there I go laughing. It's not funny, but my daughter was molested by one of these freaks, and now when I look back on it, and I don't even really think he was a Hare Krishna guy. I think this was like an Indian family because I've seen it a lot. It was an Indian family. They were from India, and they were living in Los Angeles. And she was working at UCLA as a doctor, the wife, and the husband was like a bum. He wasn't doing anything. He was working in the school as a teacher guy, and there were two women teachers and this helper guy, and they lived in the building, and he had a wife and a daughter that was 16 years old. So it was like a family. And as soon as all this shit went down, and the police were interviewing him and interviewing his wife, interviewing the daughter, and they put my daughter in like this was it called? I think it's called Stewart House. It was like Ronald McDonald House, but it was Stewart House. It was for kids that are, have gone through something, and they get to go and they get to talk to a child therapist, and it's free. And so, my daughter went into this therapy thing. Now, they don't put kids in that if they haven't been abused. They're not going to take a kid that it hasn't been abused and is making it up, or they don't believe, and put them in a therapy situation for abused kids or molested kids, sexually abused kids. So I don't know what my computer's doing here. So that's one thing. So they put her in this. They put her in this thing. I don't know how long it was. 3 months, 4 months. It was like once a week. And in the meantime, of course, they didn't kick the guy out. And then he just moves out. They just move out of the community. You know what? I guess once they figured they got away, he got away with it. Well, the wife, they all knew about it because they were all lying about it. They were giving him an alibi. He didn't have an alibi. That's why they wanted a confession. They knew he was lying. The police knew that they were all lying. The wife and the daughter. They wanted to protect their dad or husband, and but the police know. The police know. The police are not ding-dongs like don't know what's going on. The police interview hundreds of people every day. They talk to people. They know when people are lying and when they're not lying. So anyway, they put my daughter in the thing. They conclude the investigation because they can't get a confession out of him. So nothing happens to him. And then they bounce out. They just bounce out. Probably go on to another thing. And they weren't I don't think they were Hare Krishnas. They weren't like in the Hare Krishna. They were just Indians in the community and just like kind of like using the Hare Krishna temple and everything, you know, for an apartment and just like, hey, can we live here? That was it. And they protected that guy. I was the devotee in the community. I was a devotee in the community long before he showed up. I was for 4 years. I was in the community for 4 years, working in the community before him and his family even showed up. Or not 4 years, like 3 years. Like 3 years before he showed up, his family showed up. And then he bounces out of the community. He was never really he wasn't part of the community like I was. But they protected him simply because, I don't know, simply because they couldn't kick him out. They couldn't kick him they couldn't kick me out because I didn't live in their building. I lived around the corner. So that they didn't have control over kicking me out. So they took the school away from the teacher. They eliminated the school, and and then he ends up just leaving the community because he was a child molester. And even though he didn't go to jail or anything, everybody knew because my daughter and the other kids in the school, their parents knew. I mean, the community knew. And so even though they knew, they still looked at us as the bad people because we called the police and we made a big deal out of it. So we were the bad people in the whole in the whole thing. So that ruined. Well, I'm kind of glad it ruined my daughter's life. At the time, I didn't because I didn't understand the whole idea of the cult and I didn't understand it all. I was like deep in it, so I didn't understand all the ramifications. I just knew that this guy was a friggin' child molester and he needed something, and he never got it. So yeah, he never got what he needed. There was no justice. There was no karma. There was no evening of the scales, or he got everything he wanted. He got to live in the temple community, got to molest little girls, he got to bounce out without anything happening to him, he got the protection of the temple. Boom, he's gone. Meanwhile, my daughter was, victim shamed or blamed the victim. I lost my clout with the temple because here I was calling the police and doing all that. All of a sudden, they started to look at everything I was doing as being wrong. So naturally, I hooked up with the Ritvik organization and started dealing with them and working with them and believing all the stuff about well, look what they did. It's them. It's the gurus. It's the political organization that runs it. And look how they treated you. And look at this. And they were just using it. They were just using it as another weapon in their arsenal. They were using me and my daughter as another tool in their belt to say, yeah, and you did this to that guy, and you did this to that guy, and SriMukunda and his daughter, and that's all that was. And it really became apparent how they act when my wife passed away, and all they could do was glorify Prabhupada. Hey, let me see. I'm sorry. The Ritvik organization, what's that? Yeah, okay, I'll tell you what that is in a second here. I just saw a live again. Hey, Mike, Danielle Noriega Lee. Yeah, hey, how you doing? I'm just talking about my time in the Hare Krishnas and what happened with not so much what happened with my daughter, but yeah. So the Ritvik organization is basically it's a political organization within ISKCON that says that Prabhupada did not want any gurus. He wanted to remain the guru, and everybody is just a disciple of Prabhupada. But hey, no. But yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for coming in, man. I really like talking to somebody and not just preaching to the void and hoping that someone watches it back. Even though everybody that watches it back, I love you guys too, because you guys are really important, because I get more views on the replay than I do live. So all you people that are watching on the replay, man, I love you guys too. But it's always good because I feel like there's someone here. So all you guys watching on the replay, you can join in when I'm live, and we can all talk together and discuss these things. So the Ritvik organization is it's a worldwide organization of devotees that are just unhappy with the political system within ISKCON, and they want to change it. They want to change the politics. It's just like a political organization. Well, now the Ritvik, because it's a political organization and they want to challenge the status quo of ISKCON, they are banned. So they're not really allowed to be in ISKCON. Like if you're an initiated disciple of a guru, you can't be a Ritvik, because that goes against the whole guru system. So let's say you have a guru and you're unhappy with your guru, and then you become a Ritvik, you're out. So I've been liking and sharing your videos to my friends and family members. Some are not with ISKCON, but are still into the cult. Hopefully they would leave the cult. Ideological brainwashing. Yeah, thank you for doing that. It's important, because a lot of people get caught up with a lot of cool stuff about Indian culture and think that you have to be in a cult to be in it, or I can't leave the cult and not enjoy Indian culture. And you absolutely can't. You don't have to believe in Prabhupada. You don't have to believe he's a guru and every word he says is true. You don't have to believe all that. And you can believe in the philosophy. You can believe in, vegetarianism and all the, and we're all spirit, soul, and we're not the body, and blah, blah, blah. But you can believe all that stuff. You don't have to be in a cult to believe in that. You don't have to be in a dangerous, destructive, mental illness-causing cult to enjoy a hobby. I call it a hobby, because that's really what it is. It's a hobby. It makes you happy, so you do it. And it's, like playing tennis. That's all it is. It's. I would drink the water bottle. No, you wouldn't want to do that. But yeah, I just want to help people. I just want to help people know what's going on out there, because a lot of people don't know. A lot of people actually get into Hare Krishna and get out of it, and they don't even know what a disgusting, evil, sinister cult they were in, because they just want to eat meat and smoke cigarettes and go have sex. They don't know anything about the child molesting. They don't know anything about the racism. They don't know anything about the woman hating and women like to be raped and have small brains and black people. They don't know any of that. For one reason or another, they've been sheltered from that, because you don't join the Hare Krishnas and they go, hey, guess what? We hate black people and we hate women and we abuse our kids. No, they don't do that. Right? You gotta figure that stuff out on your own. And everything that they're telling you is, when you come across an instance where somebody bad did something, they go, well, it's that guy. It's not the teachings, it's not the philosophy, it's not the brainwashing, it's not all that. It's just that guy happens to be a bad guy, and he happened to came in here, and he rose to the top, became a guru, and then he did some bad shit. I mean, does that make sense in any way, shape, or form? Of course not. Of course it doesn't make sense. Now, there are a lot of wackos in the Hare Krishnas. I mean, I met every kind of wacko, and I guess I was kind of a wacko too, because I'm like this crazy comedian guy, because I was always a funny comedian guy. So, but I wasn't doing stand-up comedy when I was in the Hare Krishnas, but I was still the same guy. So Bath holy water, Lord ever. That's funny. That's funny because I know it's just a joke. Otherwise, I don't even want to comment on it. I have 2 younger male cousins who are now rethinking about leaving ISKCON. You mean they want to go back? Are you saying they want to go back into ISKCON? Or are you saying they're thinking about? I have younger 2 male cousins who are now rethinking about leaving. Are you saying they left and they're thinking about going back? Or they're thinking about leaving? Like they were thinking about leaving and then they didn't, and now they're thinking about leaving again. I'm confused about the phrase rethinking about leaving. So I don't know. They want to leave. Yeah. I know how that is. I know how it is. It was a dilemma for me because there was a lot of ramification, like just the pure circumstances about leaving. Like not even, just like where am I going to live? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Was a lot. But I had to do it. And so I knew these were things I was forced to find a place to live. Find, well, that was the biggest one, was finding a place to live. And realizing that everyone that I was all of my friends, everyone I was associating with, I wasn't going to associate with them anymore. So that alone was a big, you wouldn't think that would be a big deal. You want to leave a cult, but it's just something you have to deal with. It's kind of like finding a job. It's like, it's a pain in the ass, but you got to do it. You got to go on that interview and you got to do all these things. So when I made the decision to leave the cult, like I knew I had to go. When I was leaving the cult, like I was making the decision to leave, and my mother got sick and was dying. She was like transitioning. She was like dying. And so when she first got sick, I was still in the community, but I wanted to leave. I was spending all my time at my parents' house because they lived close to the temple. They lived about a mile away. And I didn't want to be at my apartment anymore because I had a roommate that was a Hare Krishna, and it was in the community, and all this shit was going on. And I was every moment the meter was just going on. It was like a taxi clicking. It was just like click, click, click. I had to get out of there. I had to get out of there, and it was just like, so. And then my mother gets sick, so I'm already spending a lot of time at my mother's house because I didn't want to be in the community. I didn't want to be in my own apartment. I didn't want to be in my own apartment. And finally, I was like, okay, I got to move. I'm going to just move to my parents' house because my mother got so sick she needed care. So there's like all these things going on. I got to care for my mother. I'm trying to leave this cult. They're smearing me on the internet. They're making death threats to me, and this is a lot. There's a lot going on. And then there's the whole like philosophical thing. Like, well, do I still believe in God? Do I still believe in Krishna? Do I still believe in chanting? Is it the people? Is it the cult? Is it what is it? What am I breaking away from? Am I breaking away from the people? Am I breaking away from these teachings? What is it that I'm leaving? Because if you leave the cult but you don't leave the teachings, you're just leaving the what are you leaving? That's what I'm saying. Like a lot of Hare Krishnas, they leave or they're not in the community because they want to eat meat, or they want to do drugs, or they want to have sex, or so they don't want to live in the community, so they leave, they bounce out. But in their heads, they're in the cult. They're not outside the cult. They're in the cult. So what are you leaving? Right? So you have to leave. You're leaving. I wasn't just leaving the neighborhood. I wasn't just leaving the people that molested my daughter, or the people that protected the guy. I wasn't just leaving them, and I wasn't just leaving this organization that was making death threats to me and all this other stuff. I wasn't just leaving that. I was leaving everything. The cult is the books, it's the teachings, it's the founder, it's Prabhupada, it's all of that. So when you have that realization, it becomes like, whoa. So now I'm leaving the neighborhood I'm living in, I'm leaving all my daily practices that I do, the chanting, offering my food, the decorations in my, how I decorate my house, what I wear, how I wear my hair. It's everything. It's your whole life. In every way, shape, and form is changing. And I can understand how someone can be like, well, I for whatever reason, whether you don't believe that there's a Krishna anymore because it just doesn't make sense to you, or you found out about the child molesting and you don't like that, or your guru fell down and you don't like that, or whatever it is. It's going on in your head and you're like, oh my God. Whatever that is, then now you have to decide, is it that individual event, or is it the whole cult? And when you realize, if you just think it's a person, this guru, that guru, the temple president, I didn't like that temple president, I didn't like that guru, that guy molested my daughter, that guy molested that other girl, whatever it is, if that's all it is to you, then you're going to just leave the community and you're still going to chant Hare Krishna, and you're still going to think there's a four-armed guy laying on an ocean of milk and a flower growing out of his stomach with a four-headed guy on that, and a demon head is eating the moon. Because when I first came to Hare Krishna, and I met guys who were not in the temple. They didn't live in they lived in an apartment with their girlfriends. They lived in their car. They lived in a van. They lived in another country and were just traveled around. And they were not in a temple. They didn't have any position in the temple. Some of them didn't even look like Hare Krishnas, except they had the beads. And they had the bead bag. And they were all full-on Hare Krishna cult fanatics. They didn't live in the temple. They did not live in the temple. They lived just among us. They walk among us. And, and when they met me, they're like, oh, a new guy. I was the new guy, and they could preach there. They were like, oh, they were happy now because they could preach Krishna to me. And sometimes we'd all get together, and there'd be like 4 or 5 of us all together, all talking. They were all like preaching to me. Oh yeah, when I joined, I did, it was like this, and I blah blah blah. And you know who was at my ceremony? This guy, and this guy. And I'm like, those flunky gurus you were initiated? Yeah, he sat right next to me. Yeah. He was sitting right next to me. Beer Krishna Das. Beer Krishna Goswami was initiated with me. And I'm like, oh, so like, you could be Beer Krishna Goswami? You both joined at the same time on the same letter? Another guy's like, yeah, Prabhupada handed me my beads. He gave me my name. Said it out loud. The whole temple went nuts when I got my name because his name was Radhakunda Das. And everybody was like, whoa, he got the name Radhakunda Das? Everybody else is getting some weird name, some name, I don't even know what it means, like Rickshaw Das or, Bathwater Das or whatever. And all of a sudden he comes up with Radhakunda Das. And the whole temple just went, hey, Jai! I was freaked out. I heard all these stories from guys that were just, like I said, walk among us. They walk among us. They walked among us. Yeah, they do. They walk among us. And who's at my ceremonies? Me. Who the mofo cares? Get a life. That's how I think about it now. But at the time when you're in it, oh, it's just so amazing. And to hear these stories. I'm hearing stories from Yashodanandan about when he was with Prabhupada in Prabhupada's room. Bathwater Das. And now your name will be Bathwater Das. Yeah. Chartamrita Das. You don't think there's somebody named Chartamrita Das? Chartam. Yeah, and he was a rock star. He was the biggest scamming rock star. And you don't think there's somebody named Chartamrita Das? Chartamrita is what they call when they wash the deities. What comes off, all that comes off the deities is Chartamrita. And they put it in a little bowl by the door of the temple, and you take a little bit and you put it in your hand, and you slurp it up, and then you wipe it on your head. See, I know what I'm talking about. These people, like a lot of times, people leave me comments or send me messages saying, oh, you were never in the Hare Krishna. You don't know what you're talking about. You've never read Bhagavad Gita. I'm like, yeah, okay, buddy. Sure. Sure. Like, I've heard stories that other people have never heard. Well, I'm sure they like to tell their stories, so I'm sure other people have heard them. But it's not like stories that you hear. But I met Radhakunda Das. So Radhakunda Das, and I don't mean to talk about it because he passed away. And he was a nice guy. He was a cult member, but he was a nice guy. He was a scammer, though, man. He's the kind of guy that would, like, he was the kind of guy that would, like, he'd borrow money from you and then, promise to pay you back, and then he would, like, try to pay you back in incense. I got all this. He was just like he was a scammer, and but he was he was he was a pretty nice guy as far as I go. I went to India with him, and what he did was he got this girl, his girlfriend, to buy him. They were going to India. This was on my first trip to India. On my first trip to India, so him and his girlfriend and this lady's daughter and me and this other guy, we all go to India. So this is how he scammed her. he told her, yeah, we're going to take this trip to India. And then he goes to India. He doesn't tell anybody his plan. This was all in his head. We get to India, and he's not going back. He's like, I'm not going back. And so his girlfriend, they got into a fight. They got into a big fight, and I guess she kicked him out because she was paying for everything. She paid for his ticket. She paid for the hotel or the ashram or whatever. She's paying for his food. She's giving him spending money. He's buying all this stuff, right? He's stocking up. He's stocking up on what he needs to, to not go back, right? So he's buying, clothes, and he's buying a bag and a thing, and a sleeping bag, whatever he's spending this money on. So they get in this argument, and he's like, I'm done with her. This is it. And I didn't really know what he meant. I wasn't really paying attention, I don't think, because, it's my first time in India, and I'm in my own world. And then we're at this place, this guy's place, and he's moving in. He's moving into this guy's ashram, this guy's temple. And they're talking about it, and the guy's like, yeah, you can move in, and you can stay, and blah, blah, blah. And that's when I was like, oh, you're not going back to LA? He's like, no, I'm not going back. I'm not going back to LA. I'm staying here in India. And then I realized that that's what they were fighting about. That was what caused them to break up. Basically, he just told her, I'm done. He's like, I'm done. Well, that's because that's what they do. That's what Hare Krishnas do. So then I guess she realized, wow, all this time you've just been playing me. Because I guess maybe they had been planning this trip to India for a while. I don't know. I don't know what their personal business is, but I think that's what she figured out. Like, oh, you were just living with me and humoring me. So she would buy him a ticket to India, and then they'd go to India, and then he was like, I'm done. Because he knew that he would never go back to India. If he went back to LA, he'd never get back to India again. So he figured, I'm just going to stay. And he stayed. And then he ended up getting sick, and he passed away there. He had, I don't know what he had. So that was, he was like a total hippie. Before he joined the Hare Krishnas, he was like a total hippie guy. He lived like in caves. He lived like in he lived in, what did he tell me? Like Mark Twain National Park in Missouri, or wherever Mark Twain National Park is, somewhere in the Midwest. And he said he lived in a cave. He lived in a cave. He was like a hippie survivalist. Like he knew how to like live off the land. And that's why he didn't care about India. He was like, I'll sleep under a tree. All he needed was a sleeping bag, and that was it. And he didn't even need a sleeping bag. He just needed a blanket. And but I talked to him a lot. I knew him. I knew him for like 4 years before we went to India. So I knew the guy pretty well, and he was a scammer. He was a scammer, but he was a total hippie. He was like a long hair hippie dude with a beard, and lived in a cave and lived off the land, and then he joined the Hare Krishnas and became a Hare Krishna. And then I met this other guy who was, I met a bunch of guys that were Marines. They were like in Vietnam. They're in Vietnam fighting, or they got out of Vietnam because they got injured. Hardcore, like Marine guys, excuse me. like these hardcore Marine guys, and those guys really kind of had an impression on me. I don't know how to say it, but they had an impression on me because I just seem like if you've been through, if you've, he's a survivalist. He was a survivalist, yeah, absolutely. He's absolutely a survivalist. And these Marine guys, they're kind of like survivalists too. But these Marine guys, I met like probably 3 or 4 Marines, ex-Marines. A couple of them have been to Vietnam. I think one guy went to I think Vietnam, and then the other guy went to boot camp and he got injured in boot camp and didn't go. And then I don't remember how many other guys I met that Marines, but these 2 guys. And the one guy that went to boot camp and didn't go he reminded me of like Popeye the Sailor. He was just like this. And he was kind of like, he was a funny guy, but he just seemed like, like a sailor type of guy. Like a kind of rough and tumble guy. Like a guy that didn't take any shit. Nice guy though, but like a nice country kind of guy. Now I'm saying he was country, but he was just kind of like a Uncle Joe, Uncle Charlie kind of guy. Just, but kind of rough and gruff in a way. And I couldn't understand how, and I met him early on, so I couldn't understand how this guy believed this Krishna stuff, because I was having a hard time believing it. Like I'm getting into it. I'm not there yet, right? And I meet this guy, and he's like this. It's like he was like Quint from Jaws. Okay, I mean that's the best way to describe him for me. Was like he was like Quint, the shark guy. He was, without the accent. He was kind of like that, and it just made me think like, how can Quint from Jaws be a Hare Krishna? It didn't make sense. And then, but then, like, how can you believe this stuff? Because I wasn't believing a lot of this stuff. Like, Krishna playing a flute, and Lord Chaitanya appearing 500 years ago, and that's supposed to be Krishna. Like, Krishna, the ultimate God of all God, of God that created the universe, the Big Bang. He appeared in Bengal as Lord Chaitanya, chanting, dancing around. I couldn't buy it. But here's this guy that's like Quint from Jaws, and he's like, yeah, and then Shiva, Shiva does this, and Parvati, and he's telling him Mahalakshmi is actually Radharani, and Krishna, he steals the butter and he gives it to the monkeys, and he's telling me all this stuff, and he's making it really, like it's Quint from Jaws telling me Krishna stories, and it's like, it was just a weird, it didn't make sense, and I always, it was impressionable that it didn't make sense like that. Like this guy, he's telling me about Shiva and Shiva wanted to go into the Rasa dance, but he had to take a bath and become a gopi first. He had to bathe in Lalita, whatever, Kund, whatever it was, and then become a gopi, and now he's Gopishwar, and he's telling me like he's telling me about the Battle of Gettysburg or something. Yeah, he's telling me like it's a, like he's telling me about the Battle of Gettysburg, like Quint from Jaws. I mean, how do you doubt that? How do you doubt a guy like that that's telling you some outrageous, and I don't know how to say it, but that he definitely was like, just made me think. And then I met I met this other Marine guy who went to Vietnam, and he was like this little guy, you know, he was like a little Tom Cruise type character, and but he was like a mean little, like a little Napoleon type guy, you know, and he passed away too, tragically, and I say, you know, so I don't want to take, I want to speak ill of the dead, even though they were, okay, I'll speak ill of the dead, even though they were like, you know, cult members and promoting this evil, disgusting cult. You know, you know, if I look at it, if I try to look at them as, I try to look at them as a victim. I try to give them the benefit of the doubt and try to say, well, you know, they were perpetrators, but they were also victims, because I was also a perpetrator and a victim, because I was spreading books, I was going out and doing, you know, chanting on the street and at the Roth Yatra and promoting stuff to people and distributing books, and I had my TV show where I was promoting, you know, this cult. I didn't realize what I was doing. I should have, but I didn't. So I was a perpetrator of this cult, unknowingly. But once I figured it out, you know, I made my break, clean break, snap, break, clean break, off, done. So I try to think of them, when I think about these guys, I try to think of like, okay, maybe they were like 51% victim, 49% perpetrator. I don't know. I don't want I don't want to give it too much thought. Um, Lord Shiva had to cross-dress as a female gopi. I don't think he cross-dressed. I think he actually took the form of a gopi. He actually transgendered. He actually went through a sex change. He didn't just cross-dress. He wasn't told, oh, you have to put on a sari to enter the rasa dance. No, that you got to become a gopi. Now you got to understand what Shiva wants. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. What does Shiva want to do? What is it that Shiva wants to do? He wants to have sex with Krishna. He wants Krishna to have sex with him. Well, actually, Shiva wants to watch the rasa dance. He just wants to watch. But he's told, you can't. You can only enter if you're a gopi. Only gopis are allowed to enter the rasa mandala. Seva Kunj. Is it Seva Kunj or Nidhivan? Nidhivan is where they sleep. Seva Kunj where they dance. So, I think it's Seva Kunj. So, he was told, you can't enter Seva Kunj. Only gopis can enter Seva Kunj. So, and I forget who told him, but a little bird told him. So he had to take his bath. You have to take a bath. If you take a bath in, I think it's Lalita Kund. I'm not sure which Kund it is, but it's like Lalita Kund. Easy to look it up. It's in Krishna book or whatever. But he took a bath in Lalita Kund, I guess, whatever. And then when he came out of the water, he had the form of a gopi. He was a female gopi, which meant when he went into the Seva Kunj, the rasa dance, he was now a gopi, and not only was he going to watch the rasa dance, he was now going to participate in the rasa dance. Yeah, Lord Shiva has always been a bit of a voyeur. So, no, you don't get to watch. You can participate. But you can't just watch. So he became a gopi, and he went in, and what do you think happened? What do you think happened when he went in there? So yeah. So I met these Marine guys, these Marines, met hippies. She was into it. So I don't know if you're familiar with the story when Mohini stole the nectar. If you're familiar with the story when Mohini stole the nectar, how can I put it? Odd, as Shiva is Mahadev, who can be stopped by a female prostitute gopi. So, yeah, there's a lot of stories about Shiva, and I know that I don't know if it's in the Krishna book or if it's in. I had this book that I bought in India, and it was. I do not want to think about what happened. Well, yeah, because we know what happened. Pornhub happened when he went in there. Yeah, pretty much Pornhub happened. But I'm not sure if it's. I don't know if it's in Krishna book or if it's in this book that I bought when I was in India. It was a book about. It was a book. It was prayers. It was the prayers of Lord Shiva to. It was the prayers of Lord Shiva to Krishna, or I forget. He played Krishna's. He played Krishna's flute. Well, if you want to, in some cultures it's called a flute. In other cultures it's called something else. And in some cultures we call it a Johnson or a schlong or a schmendrick, depending on how big it is. But I guess in this instance, if you want to call it a flute, you can call it a flute. But there was definitely something was being played during that Rasa dance. I was definitely happy. So I forgot what I was. I forgot what I was saying. Yeah, it was this book that I bought in India, and I think it was called the Prayers of Lord Shiva, something Shiva, Prayers of Shiva to something. Anyway, I don't know if it's in there or if it's in Krishna book, but when Mohini steals the nectar and Shiva sees her, I think that's what happened. Well, that's the only time Mohini appears is when she steals the nectar. So whatever. Maybe play Krishna's flute. Yeah, the old skin flute, as we say in some parts of the world. Shiva got all excited. Okay, Shiva gets excited when he sees Mohini, because she's got the breasts and she's got the hips, and her sari falls down, and I guess she's exposed, and her hips are exposed, and of course her ankles are exposed. So Lord Shiva gets excited, of course, and then some of Lord Shiva's DNA it gets spilled and it falls, and everywhere where his DNA lands is a holy place. And so there's like 7 holy places in India, 7 major holy places in India, and those are because that's where Lord Shiva's DNA landed when he got excited from seeing Mohini. So, a lot of Pornhub going on in these scriptures, and a lot of Pornhub going on, and but a lot of times, you got to put this stuff together yourself. You got to put this stuff together yourself, and because the cult, they immediately tell you right off the bat, Don't think of this as anything sexual. Don't think of it anything lusty. Don't think of it as anything. Why? Why not? Because that's what it is. Same reason. They don't want you eating meat. They don't want you eating eating chocolate or drinking Coke or smoking cigarettes or doing anything. They don't want you reading the newspaper. They don't want you doing all these things. They want to control the information that's going into your head. And then even when they give you information that's going into your head, they want to control how you think about that information. Don't think of it as being lusty. All these lusty things. When Prabhupada's describing the breasts and the milk, the gopis are so excited to see Krishna. The milk is coming out of their breasts. And, their hips are heavy as they're swaying down the thing. And they become sexually aroused and semen and all this stuff. Yet, don't think of it like that. Like, how exactly, like, look at this. Shiva becomes sexually aroused and delirious, desiring Mohini, and his semen came out and fell to the ground, and his sons said, well, yeah, okay, right. I mean, different verses will say different things. One, in the Padma Purana, it says that when his semen fell, it created Haridwar and Varanasi and wherever. And somewhere else in the Skanda Purana, it says that the sperm landed and his sons were born. Or it'll say where his hair fell, where Parvati's Durga, where Durga Devi's hair fell, the holy. So different Puranas or whatever will say different things. So yes, I've had many in the temple tell me that it's not sexual. It is a sweet pastime. Sweet pastime. Yeah. Yeah. So, and of course we buy that and we go, yeah, I'm not being spiritual if I think that the rasa dance is a orgy. If you go, just think of it like, Krishna expanding to be each one. Why? Krishna expanded to be one for each one. Are they trying to clean it up a little bit? Like, okay, Krishna was pretty horny, but he wasn't that horny. Okay, so he expanded into a bunch, or did he just have them all at one time? If it's not sexual, why did he have to expand into many to have each? They could each have one. I mean, none of it makes sense. I mean, well, it does. A lot of it makes sense if you really think about it, and don't just take Prabhupada. Okay, so look, here is this mythological story, 1,000 years old or whatever. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say it's 1,500 years old or whatever. You got this story about all these lusty sexual things. What and they were it existed all that time without Prabhupada's interpretation. It's not till Prabhupada comes along and says, "Hey, this isn't sexual." Who said it's not sexual? Other than Prabhupada. We have carvings on temple walls from 1,000 years ago where there's all kinds of sex going on. We have paintings from hundreds of years ago where Krishna and Radharani are having sex. There's explicit art of Krishna and Radharani. There's pornography of Krishna and Radharani. Where is that coming from? There's pornographic art from India that's hundreds of years old. And carvings on statues that's 1,000 years old or 900 years old. And now you want to try and convince me that that those stories about Krishna and the gopis and Shiva and his sperm and all, you're trying to convince me that that's not sexual. It was sure sexual when they carved those when they carved those carvings and made those statues and painted those paintings, they weren't confused about it. No confusion back then. They knew exactly what it was. But Prabhupada wants me to say, no. It's not sexual. Just because he hated sex. He hated women. He hated sex. There are people in the world that like hate other people and hate things. I mean, we got in the U.S., we got people that that hate Mexicans. Just they don't even know why they hate them. They just hate them. I hate Mexicans. There's people like that all over the world. Countries, border. We hate that country. I don't know why. Just hundreds of years, we've always hated. We've always been at war with East Asia. We've always hated Mexicans. We've always hated black people. We've always been Aryans. Probably was just a woman-hating, friggin' psycho. I mean, he hated sex. He I think he there are men, and that cannot relate to adult women, grown men. Can't relate to women their own age. They got to have younger women, maybe teenage. It's just something. Everyone's whatever. He was just a weird guy. He didn't like black people. He didn't even like dark Indians. To tell you the truth, he didn't. He didn't like the dark Indians. He didn't like black people. He didn't like Jews. He didn't like women. These are the kind of people that become cult leaders. These are the kind of people that channel that into like these weird ways. David Koresh, Jim Jones, all of these, Charlie Manson. Prabhupada was a weird friggin' guy, man. He couldn't even accept the fact that, he went to college in 1900 and learned that women had small brains, and that's why they were less intelligent. Because back then, they didn't let women do anything. So how are you gonna know if a woman is smart if you don't let her go to school? You don't let her do anything. He couldn't even admit that in the 1960s, by the time he got to America and he's looking around in Manhattan, he sees women are doing everything that men are doing. He still couldn't accept the fact that maybe women, maybe that's not true. No, because his book, Krishna says right in the book, women are less intelligent than men. Then the verse. What's that stupid verse? Even women, he says. The less intelligent and women. The less intelligent and women. Like there's stupid people and then there's women too. There's men, stupid men, and women. He gets to Manhattan. He gets to Manhattan, 1966, 65. He sees the modern world. I mean, India was. It's not like they didn't have shit in India either. But he gets to Manhattan, New York City. It's like the most modern city in the world. 1965. He couldn't figure out maybe women aren't less intelligent. No, it never crossed his mind. Maybe these hippies, maybe it's wrong to give Lord Chaitanya's movement to these drug addict hippies. Maybe that was wrong. Maybe it was wrong to open up schools and put these drug addicted hippies who are now pretending to be Hare Krishnas in charge of a bunch of little kids. He just could not accept the fact that it's wrong. This whole idea of sending kids to some school, some gurukula where there's a guru and he didn't do that. He didn't go to no gurukula. My blessings to you, become a woman. Oh no, we got another one of these nuts in here. Anesh, are you a Hare Krishna freak? Just please tell me no. Tell me you're not a Hare Krishna freak that thinks that men take another birth as a woman because of whatever reason. Please tell me you're not one of these nut cases. Are you one of these? Are you one of these nuts? Do you believe in the four-armed guy? With the flower growing out of his stomach, with the four-headed guy growing on it? You believe that? He's laying on a snake that's really his brother that has 9 heads on an ocean of milk. You believe that? You believe that crap? You really do? You know you're going to become a karmi in your next life if you stay in my chat. If you stay in my chat, you're gonna become a Hare Krishna in your next life, and then guess what? You'll end up in jail for child abuse or something. You're not. Okay, because if you're here to promote a child molesting, woman hating, racist, sexist, misogynistic cult, I'm kicking you out. I'm just letting you know. I'm letting you know right now. Because we don't have that in here. This is a cult-free. This is not for Hare Krishnas, because we don't want you to hear Guru Aparad or any kind of Vaishnav Aparad, because if you hear that, it'll be detrimental to your spiritual life, and we don't want to do anything that's going to harm your belief in the four-armed guy that has a flower growing out of his stomach with a four-headed guy growing on it, and then when he hears the flute, the sound goes out of the flute and then into the ear of the four-headed guy, and then he creates all the things in the world, including the guy with the elephant head. You believe in the guy with the elephant head? Anesh? Spicy nuts. I don't know what attracts them. I don't know what attracts them to come in here. Anesh, what's up, Anesh? What do you want to say? You got a real live Hare Krishna here. What do you want to say? Ask a Krishna. Ask a Krishna. What do you want to say? What do you want to say? What do you want to say? Do you want to hear about how Hare Krishna is a cult, and Prabhupada was a pedophile who had sex with an 11-year-old girl when he was 22 years old, and then laughed about it to his disciples and thought it was a big funny joke? Do you want to hear about? You want to talk about that? Because we can talk about that. learning? Okay, so I'll teach you. So Srila Prabhupada, he was 22 years old when he had sex with his 11-year-old child bride. Now, even though that was common back then, he was under no obligation to do that. Because if he was actually a self-realized soul, and he saw everyone equally and with pure vision, he could see past, present, and future. How a self-realized spiritual master is in the Guru Parampara, how they can see past, present, and future. Even though he had this child bride at 11 years old, and he was 22, being the self-realized pure devotee guru in the Parampara, going all the way back to Krishna, he didn't have to accept that child bride. He didn't have to get married. He didn't have to get married. Suppose Srila Prabhupada. Now he wants to learn. He wants to learn about Prabhupada, so I'm going to teach him. I'm going to teach him about Prabhupada. So he didn't have to marry that 11-year-old girl. He could have said, no, I'm a pure devotee. And pure devotees don't have sex with 11-year-old girls when they're 22 years old. I could marry her because it is the custom. But because I'm a pure devotee, self-realized soul, and I understand that we're all spirit souls, and that this little 11-year-old girl is also a spirit soul, and me being the self-realized spiritual master, guru that I am, and I am destined to become, I cannot have sex with her, that little girl. I cannot. But of course, he didn't do that. What he did was, in his own words, in Prabhupada's own words, just see, a little girl, 11 years of age, and I was 22. And I took her hand, and she cried, ha ha ha, because she didn't know. Just see, a young girl. So, that's who Srila Prabhupada is. Because when he had a chance to do the right thing, he chose to do the wrong thing. And even though he is this self-realized spiritual master, as good as God, all of these things, he was unable to not have sex with that little girl. He just couldn't do it. So he has sex with this little girl, and then he hates her. Because he ends up joining this cult, and his guru tells him that women are less intelligent than men. And women like to be raped. And women are the cause of all of man's problems. They agitate his genitals. They just want everything. They're stupid and less intelligent, so they're causing problems. They have to be protected. It's better not to get involved with women. Well, he wanted to learn. He said he wanted to learn, so I'm going to teach him. I'm going to teach him everything. It's tantamount to rape. Well, you figure if an 11-year-old girl is crying, she's not consenting. If a 22-year-old man takes a little girl's hand and is leading her to a secluded place for sex, and she's crying, she's not consenting. So he goes on and he has this wife that he doesn't like. He probably never wanted her in the first place. But anyway, for whatever reason, he has kids. I don't know how many kids he had. I know what he said about children. He said children are just a representation of your sex life. When you introduce your children to people, all you're really saying is, this is my sex life, and this is my sex life, and I had sex here, and I had sex there, and I had sex here. That's what he thought of children. That's how much he thought of children. Oh wait, what does this guy want to say? This guy wants to say something. At what age he begot a child? I don't know. I don't care. I actually saw Prabhupada's kid. The first time I was in Vrindavan, we were going into the Krishna Balaram temple, and this is in 1996, and we're me and all these people that I'm with, the girl, Radhakunda Das, my friend who was initiated with Hare Krishna Goswami. It was Bir Raghava Das, Bir Krishna Das, Bir Lakshman Das, and I don't remember. It was four beers on the. It was almost a six-pack, because if he had two more beers, he would have had a six-pack. But it was four beers on that letter, and I don't remember the fourth beer. But like I said, if there were six beers, we had a six-pack there. But it was Bir Krishna, Bir Raghava, Bir Lakshman, and the other beer. And so we're going into the temple, and there's this big commotion. Just big commotion. This is a big crowd of people, and everybody's coming out. And it's like in that courtyard area between the gate where you walk in. You walk into the Krishna Balaram temple, and Prabhupada's Samadhi is over here, and the museum is over here, and the temple is in front of you. And there's kind of like this courtyard with steps that go down. And right in that area, see, I know what I'm talking about. Anesh, you see that I know what I'm talking about? And there's that courtyard in the middle, and there's this big commotion right there, and he's coming, and we don't know what's going on. And there's a big kind of commotion, and it's Prabhupada's son. And he's leaving the temple, and we're going in, he's coming out. And he walks right by me. Like, it's like if you've ever been to India, you know how it is. It's just a big crowd of people, and you're just, as you're going through. And he just and he was right there. And he looked just like Prabhupada. He looked just like a young, if you ever see those pictures of Prabhupada when he's young, he looked just like that. He looked just like Prabhupada. And I was just like, and it was like looking at Prabhupada as he walked by, I was like, oh. And then as he went out and we got inside, everybody's like, that was Prabhupada's son. Prabhupada's son just walked. And I was like, oh, that's who that was. I was like, oh, it looked just like him. As he walked by, I didn't know who it was. But afterwards, I was like, oh, that's why he looked like Prabhupada, because that was his kid. And when I say it was his kid, he was like a 60-year-old man. It was like, it wasn't like a young man. He was like a 60-year-old guy or something. So that was my brush with son of Prabhupada. Son of Prabhupada. The son. Coming soon. The son of Prabhupada. Ah! Prabhupada does not think of children as a blessing, as an act of love, and to be a proper father, man who's responsible. No. He doesn't give a shit about kids. That's why he created a big daycare center, put a bunch of hippies in charge of it, and just let them go wild with the kids. And didn't give a fuck about the kids. Did not give a fuck about the kids. He didn't give a shit about his kids. He didn't give a shit about his wife. He just left. He's like, later, I'm going to America. She sold his books so she could buy some tea. You know how pissed off she had to be at him to do that? Because he was an asshole. Can you imagine she opens up a book? She opens up Prabhupada's book and she reads how women are less intelligent? Fuck this guy. She should have burned him, but she wanted to drink some tea, so she sold his books for some tea. And she knew that tea, he didn't like drinking tea, so she did it on purpose. Fucking yay! Prabhupada's wife. She hated him. For good reason. He raped her when she was 11 years old. You think she ever forgot about that? He says, Prabhupada says, oh, if you have a woman when she's a young girl, and she'll never forget you. Yeah, well, you know what? If you rape her, she'll never forget you either. She'll spend the rest of her life trying to forget you. What the hell, man? The son of Prabhupada, the coming of Prabhupada. There's a monster movie. It's a monster movie. The son of Prabhupada. Anyway, so I met a lot of characters in the Hare Krishnas. Just a lot of Krishna. Hey, Anesh, you learned anything yet? Have you learned anything? I don't want to go too fast. If you need me to slow down, I'll slow down. But I was just wondering if you've learned anything yet. So what's next on the Prabhupada story? Okay, so she sells his books for some tea because she hated him so much. Now, how does this man's wife hate him so much when he's a pure devotee of the Lord? He's in the Guru Parampara. He's in the chain from Krishna himself. He's a pure devotee. Lord Chaitanya's movement. He's self-effulgent. He's the Acharya. He's standing right next to Krishna in your heart. Krishna's in your heart and Prabhupada's right there. How does she not see it? How does she not see it? Why does she hate him so much? What did he do to her? He couldn't convince his own wife. He couldn't convince a woman that he's known since she was 11 years old. His own philosophy evidently doesn't match. You have sex with a woman when she's 11, she'll end up hating you for the rest of your life. I guess that's what he meant when he meant she'll never forget you or love you. I guess what he really meant is that she'll hate you and sell your books. She'll sell your car, your trunk full of books, for a box of tea. Why would she do that? Why would she do that? Anybody got any idea? Any of you Hare Krishnas out there? Any of you Hare Krishnas that are watching? Got any ideas why Prabhupada's wife, why he couldn't convert her? Why she wasn't right with him? Wasn't she Hindu? How could he not? I had more success getting my girlfriends and wives. I got my wife to go to India with me. She went to India with me. She put on a sari. I showed her Prabhupada's room. She wasn't a Prabhupada follower by no means. She was not a Prabhupada follower and she didn't want anything to do with Prabhupada. But you know what? I didn't have to convince her. I didn't have to force her to put on a sari. I didn't have to force her to go to India. I didn't have to force her to go to Prabhupada's room and look at his murti. I didn't force her to do anything. She did it because she loved me. She did it because I wanted to go. And she loved me. So she was like, yeah, I'll go. You dress up like a Krishna. What should I wear? I don't want to look out of place. What should I wear? I bought her some. We went and bought her some sari. She was putting on a sari. I had more success. I had more success with my wife than Prabhupada had with his, because Prabhupada's wife was already wearing the sari. He didn't have to do that. That was already done. I got my wife to put on a sari and go to India with me. She flew across halfway around the world and went to India with me. Prabhupada's wife wouldn't get on a friggin' cart and go to Loi Bazaar with him. I mean, really, you got to think of it. Yeah, she couldn't take that shit. Nobody wants to sit and listen to that shit. You think he didn't? You think he wasn't preaching to her when he was trying to write his books or whatever he's doing? You don't think he was talking to her? Oh, baby, I just, all I got to do is just finish this first canto, and I'm going to get everybody's going to follow me. I'm going to have everybody following me. And she was just like, oh, shut the fuck up. He's like, yeah, Lord Chaitanya, 500 years ago, baby. Lord Chaitanya appeared 500 years ago. Can you believe it? And she's like, you get out of here. Well, that's because you're less intelligent. You're just a stupid woman. That's why. You don't understand. You're just a dumb woman. And I had sex with you because you like to be raped. Can you imagine hearing that from this guy? What a jerk. What a friggin' jerk. I can't imagine being married to that guy. I only wish she would have got more than some tea. She should have just said, you know what, screw the tea, I'm burning these books, and taking them out into the field next to friggin' Radharaman Temple and set them on fire. And boiled some water. Use the fire from his books to make the tea. When I was in India, my daughter and I stayed at this ashram, man. I can't believe it. We stayed in this. This is 1997. No, this is 2002. 2002. We're in this ashram. This ashram. It's a hotel, whatever. It's a guest house. We're in this ashram, and the guy comes up from the ashram and he goes, "Do you want some hot water?" We didn't have hot water. 2002. No hot water in Vrindavan. If you got hot water, even to this day, you've got hot water, man. You're like Holiday Inn if you got hot water. So, 2002, we're in this ashram, and the guy comes up and he knocks on my door and he goes, "Do you want some hot water for your shower, for your bath, whatever, And I'm like, yeah. Because it's cold. It's cold in Vrindavan in February. In Vrindavan at 4 in the morning. Going to go to the temple, Mangal Artik, or 5 in the morning, whatever. It's cold. Yeah, she knew. It's cold. So he goes, "You want some hot water?" And I go, "Yeah." So my daughter and I wake up. She's like 16. Yeah, she's like 15, 16. And we're sitting there, and he says, "I'll bring you up give me 10 minutes, and we'll bring you the water." I'm like, "Okay." So we're sitting there, we're waiting for this water. So we go out we're upstairs, we're on the second floor. We go out of our door, and there's like this long walkway area, like a balcony, but it's big, like what do you call it? A veranda. I guess it's called a veranda. So we go out on the veranda, and we're standing there. And we're looking, and we're overlooking this big field, and they're building a fire in this field. And I said to my daughter, I said, "That'd be funny if they were making that fire so they could heat up our water." And she goes, "Yeah, they probably are." And I said, yeah, you're right. That is probably our water. And sure enough, they put all these sticks in this little thing, and they made this fire. And they put this big giant like wok thing of water on this fire, and they heated up the water, and they brought it up to our in a bucket, in a big giant bucket. They brought it up, and that was our hot water. And that was in 2002. So what was that? 1940s, 50s? I don't know when she sold his books, but I know they didn't have no hot water in Vrindavan when they sold his books. He should have, and I don't even know if she lived in Vrindavan with him. She probably didn't go to Vrindavan with him. She probably stayed in Calcutta or wherever the hell they lived. I doubt she went to Vrindavan with him. because usually the man leaves and goes to Vrindavan by himself. He doesn't take his wife with him, so I don't, But anyway, she should have burned the books and made some tea with the fire. That's all. That's what I'm trying to say. Because when you're in India, you need whatever you can to heat up to heat up your water. You need whatever you can. So, in fact, last time I went to India, which was, well, not second, 2 years ago. Okay, what year is this? 2024? 2023, I'm in India. I'm staying in this guest house. It's really nice. I got hot water, everything. But they go, hey, we got to move you out of the room because I was there for a week. But they said, we already got that room booked for one night before you came along. So you got to leave for one day. You got to leave for one day, and we'll put you up next door in the building next door, which I guess was their building too, I guess. And I didn't make a big deal about it. I was like, okay, fine, whatever. And I only had a backpack, so I didn't care. So I moved next door to the building next door, and they don't have hot water. And it's the same price. It's the same. They're like, we're just going to move you over there one night and come back. And no hot water. And I go, there's no hot water. And they go, yeah, there's no hot water here. We don't have hot water. We don't have hot water here. And I just said, okay. I said, no big deal. No big deal. It's India. No big deal. I'll shower. I'll shower when I get back. I'll shower tomorrow when I go back to the other room, which I did. It was no big deal. But I was just thinking, like, anywhere else, like you hot water is like you can't rent a room without hot water. I mean, like where I am now, you can't get a room. You can't in LA or in the US. You can't go. You don't go into the Holiday Inn or even in a small motel, and they go, "Oh, well, we don't have hot water." No hot water. Like you wouldn't even stay at a. If you went to check into a hotel or check into a room, and they said we don't have hot water in this place, your jaw would drop. You'd be like, "What? No hot water?" I don't know how I got on that, but anyway, she sold his books so she could get some tea. That's how much she hated this guy. She just hated this guy. So then he just says, okay, bye. And he just leaves her and the kids. Just leaves her and the kids. Doesn't give a shit about his kids or her. And then they make up the story about how, I don't know, he set him up for money or something. What I do know is that they sued ISKCON. I know that his son sued ISKCON and said, hey, that's my dad. My dad started that shit. I get something. That's my dad. That's my dad. I know he did. I know that Prabhupada Jr. sued old man Prabhupada. And I don't know what came of that. I think he won. I think they paid him off or something. Because he's like, I think in India, maybe in India the laws are different. Like, in India, even if you have a will or something, there might be, I don't know, there might be some weird laws or something, but he sued. Little Prabhupada sued Big Prabhupada and took him to court because he said, it's my dad. So that's part of the history. So then after Prabhupada comes to the U.S., he moves to New York. He moves down to the Bowery because it's cheap, and he's a cheapskate. And he says he doesn't have any money, and I guess maybe he didn't have any money. But it's a much better story if he doesn't have any money. It's a much better story if he comes to the U.S., with no money. He didn't have any money. I got my books. Right, that's a much better story, right? Believe me. Is that not a great story? He came to the U.S. He bummed a ticket on a ship, and he had a heart attack on the ship. I mean, Hollywood couldn't write a better story. He got a free ticket on a ship, which I believe he probably did get a free ticket on a ship because he was an asshole. He probably bugged the fuck out of that lady until she finally said, "You know what? Here's your goddamn ticket. I'm going to write it off on my tax." I don't know what the deal was. But he probably bugged that lady so much he gave him a ticket. And then later in the movie, she's like, "Oh yes, Swamiji came to me and I gave him a ticket." She's all happy to give him a ticket now after he started a worldwide cult. Then she's all happy. "Yes, I gave him a ticket. He came to me and I was happily gave him a ticket." I don't know. I don't believe all this stuff. So he comes to New York and he's got no money. No money. $7. Supposedly he had $7, but he was able to rent an apartment in the Bowery for $7 a month. And he sold some books. I guess he sold some books. Sold some books in the park. And well, first he went to Pennsylvania, and he sponged off some people in Pennsylvania. And when he couldn't sponge off them anymore, he moved to New York. And he moved to New York, and so probably when he was in Pennsylvania, he probably finagled some money out of that family. I'm sure he finagled some money out of that family, which they don't say. They don't say in the, like, they say he was penniless, but, I could say that. I could say, I moved to, I took a trip to India and I was penniless. Who's going to know? And not only that, but probably had no money, carrying his boots, small bag of clothes, pots and pans, cook his meals. Yeah, exactly. Like, first of all, how do you get through immigration with no money and no ticket and no return ticket? How do you get through customs? How do you get through immigration? How do you enter a country with no money? Well, he didn't have, he went to Pennsylvania. That's how he got in, because he had to have a sponsor. So he went to Pennsylvania with the Agarwals, the Indian family that sponsored him. Now, they want to make it sound like he got off the boat in Boston Harbor. He had no money. He had this bag, this thing with these books. Like you said, he was, a small bag of clothes and some pots and pans and a bag of friggin' flour or whatever, chickpeas or whatever the frig he had. It's all Hollywood, Bollywood crap, He got off the boat in Boston Harbor and this family was sitting there waiting for him, and they took him right to the friggin' customs thing. Picking him up, he got off the boat and walked in through the customs office. And the Agarwal people were there. And they took him. You don't just walk into a country like that. Like, especially back in 1965. He had to have a sponsor. There's other people, "Oh, come on in. You got no money? Yeah. You got no ticket to get out? Yeah, come on in." This is ridiculous. So he comes in on this ship. He goes to Pennsylvania with this family. They probably gave him some money. I mean, if they're rich enough, if this family is rich enough to sponsor him, and they got some big house in Pennsylvania, and they're sponsoring, this Swamiji in America, they probably, paid for his apartment in New York. They probably, arranged that for him or gave him money, or they didn't. These people in Pennsylvania didn't go, "Oh, bye, Swamiji. Hope you make it with no money. Hope you make it in New York with no money. I know you're leaving with $7, 7 rupees." This is what they're saying. He had 7 rupees. "Good luck with your 7 rupees, Swamiji. We're putting you on a bus from Boston. We're putting you on a bus from Pennsylvania to Manhattan. Good luck, Swamiji." It was crazy. Good luck, Swamiji. So he goes to New York, and, I don't know They leave that part out. Like, how'd you get this apartment in the Bowery? Of course it's in the Bowery, because that's the cheapest place, and he was penniless, so natural you did that. Oh, no. He hooks up with Dr. Mishra. He hooks up with this Dr. Mishra guy, and Dr. Mishra takes him in, so he sponges off Dr. Mishra for a while. Dr. Mishra's actually got something going on, and Prabhupada starts sponging off of him. He starts siphoning people off of Dr. Mishra. Dr. Mishra is, I forget what he is. He's giving lectures, and he's giving, I don't know what it was. If he's a chiropractor or I don't know what he was. He's probably like Dr. Chopra or Dr. Sanjay Gupta, whatever. He's probably one of those guys. Like Dr. Phil. I don't know what this Dr. Mishra was, but he had his own apartment. He had his own office. He had his own business going. He had his own thing going. And so I guess the Agarwals hooked Prabhupada up with this Dr. Mishra. Because how would Prabhupada know about this Dr. Mishra? I don't know. But anyway, so Prabhupada gets hooked up with this Dr. Mishra guy, and he's staying with Dr. Mishra in Dr. Mishra's office or apartment or wherever in Manhattan, somewhere in Manhattan. And I guess Dr. Mishra lets him, big mistake, Dr. Mishra lets Prabhupada lecture and try to sell some books. Sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? So Prabhupada immediately starts in with, you got to buy my book. You got to buy my book, and you got to listen to my brainwashing crap. So Dr. Mishra lets him do that, but Dr. Mishra doesn't become a follower. But he does get some hippies that are interested, and they like talk him into, well, why don't you have your own thing? And Prabhupada's like, I only got 4 of you. I got 4 of you, and how am I going to pay? How am I going to pay for Dr. Phil or Dr. Pod? He was Dr. Pod, okay? And hey, you know what? I read the books. Don't give me any shit, buddy, or I'm going to kick you out of here. I read the books. I don't need any shit from you, man. If you don't like it, get the fuck out, man. You got something you want to add, or you just want to criticize me and put your 2 cents in? I don't give a fuck about Dr. Mishra and Agarwal. I seen the movie. I read the books. I don't give a fuck, man. Get it through your fucking brainwashed head. Seriously, man. Get it through your brainwashed head, man. I don't give a fuck about you and your opinions about anything. I told you already. I don't have patience for that. I've been through too much with this fucking cult, man. I can make all the assumptions I fucking want, and if you don't like it, you can leave, man. You got it? Are we straight? Are we straight? You got it? I'll make all the fucking assumptions I want. You're not going to fucking tell me what to do. They're fucking Krishnas, man. They want to tell you what to do. Yeah, I'm freaking out because you're a fucking asshole. You want to get the fuck out or what? I said at the beginning, if you want to roll the tape back, I said at the beginning, yeah, I'm going to get mad. I'm going to fucking get mad. I'm going to get mad. I'm going to fucking curse. I'm going to yell. I'm going to rant. And I'm going to rave. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I do. It's exactly what I do here. You and your fucking rape culture caused my daughter to be assaulted. And I don't like it. And I'm going to speak out about your fucking rape culture. And I'll freak out about it because people like you promote rape culture. So you're either on my side and you're against rape culture, or you're for it. That's it. And if you're for it, I'm going to kick you out. Anesh. With your four-armed, flower-growing, four-headed, freaky-ass mythology. You're not going to say anything? Okay, I'm going to continue. So this fucking pedofraud, this Swami pedofraud, please explain rape culture. Please explain rape culture. Okay, so rape culture is when you're part of a group that thinks that women have small brains, are less intelligent, and like to be raped. And therefore, just about every month in your part of the world, a woman is gang raped, and children are gang raped, sometimes beaten to death. That's rape culture. When you have a whole culture that's based around women being submissive, being controlled, not given freedom, not given any of those things, and then on top of that you say that they are less intelligent, 9 times lustier than men, and that they like to be raped, that's rape culture. Have I explained it enough for you, Anesh? Do you live in the rape capital of the world, Anesh? Where women are raped in public? On buses? Right out in public? Raped and passed around like, with men standing around like dogs waiting their turn? Yeah, you do live in that. You do live there. You do live in that country. So you know all about rape culture. So, as I was saying, let's get back to the Swami pedofraud. What was I talking about? Swami pedofraud. Oh yeah, Dr. Mishra. So he's with this Dr. Mishra guy, and he sponges off some followers from Dr. Mishra. Somehow gets himself a little apartment down in the Bowery. Goes out into Tompkins Square Park, and recruits some homosexual hippies, namely Keith Ham, Kirtanananda Swami, and Hayagriva, the homosexual that wrote the Bhagavad Gita. Meanwhile, Prabhupada's preaching against homosexuality, calling them demons, saying that they are born from the anus of Lord Brahma. Anesh, do you think that homosexuals are born from the anus of Lord Brahma? Do you think that Lord Rama sits there and just like farts out homos? Is that what you think? Lord Rama is just farting out homos? Because that's what Prabhupada says. Prabhupada says that homosexuals are born from the anus of Lord Brahma, and then they attack Lord Brahma and try to have sex with Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma runs to Krishna and says, Krishna, please, Vishnu, Krishna, please save me from these homosexuals that want to violate my private space. You believe that? Do you believe that stuff? Anesh? You don't know? Okay, well, you get back with me when you figure it out. You get back to me when you figure it out, Anesh. So, so Prabhupada, who wrote these things about homosexuals, recruits a bunch of homosexuals in Tompkins Square Park. And I don't have anything against homosexuals. I'm just saying it like it is. Because I know in India, that homosexual stuff don't fly. And it don't fly in Prabhupada's world. So the hypocrite Prabhupada, while preaching against homosexuality and calling homosexuals demons and monsters and all kinds of archaic terms, and basically saying that they're demons born from the anus of Lord Brahma. I mean, if that's not bad enough, I don't know what is. While he's writing that in his books and preaching that and believes that, while Pettifraud believes that wholeheartedly, he's recruiting these homosexuals to propagate his mission. How strange and hypocritical is that? He said as long as they don't have sex, then it's okay that they could be homosexuals. How are you a homosexual if you're not having sex? Prabhupada wanted to pretend that they weren't homosexuals, that they were heterosexuals. They're just celibate He wanted to pretend that they were celibate heterosexuals. He wanted to pretend, in his mind, they were just celibate heterosexuals. They weren't homosexuals. They weren't having homosexual thoughts and repressing homosexual urges. He pretended they were just heterosexuals repressing heterosexual urges. So then he let them be in his movement. Meanwhile saying, you can't be homosexual. You can't have sex. You can't be homosexual. Meanwhile, Lord Chaitanya, dressing up like a gopi, running around in the mood of Radharani, and we all know what the mood of Radharani means. That means he's in the mood of Radharani. Lord Chaitanya's running around in the mood of Radharani. That means he's dressing up like a gopi and running around. Because to this day, there's still a cult that thinks that they should dress up like Lord Chaitanya did and run around like gopis. And if you go to Vrindavan, you'll see them. Men with, and they don't even try to be womanly. They're not like lady boys or anything. They're men, like me, just putting on a sari, putting on gopi dots, and prancing around. That's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And that was Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya started that. Lord Chaitanya started that. Dressing up like a gopi and running around. So what did they have to say? How did they explain that? How do they explain that? We don't want to just tell people that, he was dressing up like a gopi, because then everybody will start dressing up like a gopi. Can't have that. So what do they say? They come up with this, he's Radha and Krishna combined into one. Where is that? Where is that in the Vedas? Where in the Vedic literatures does it say Lord Chaitanya is going to come and he's going to be Radha and Krishna combined into one, and he's going to have 6 arms, and he's going to be called Sadbhuj and all of that? Where is that? Show me that. Yes, I've seen men with beard and feminine attire prancing around femininely imitating Lord Chaitanya. So where did that come from? Who started that? Where did that come from? Oh, let's see. Mood of Radharani. What does that mean, the mood of Radharani? How is one in the mood of Radharani? How can a man be in the mood of Radharani? How does a man get into the mood of Radharani? the mood of a gopi. A gopi who doesn't want to do anything but run around and have sex with Krishna when they hear his voice, hear his flute. Mood of Radharani. How to be a hoe. Yeah. Basically just run around and just want Krishna to have sex with you all the time. I'm in love with Krishna. What does Krishna do with the gopis? He has sex with them down by the river. That's the highest. The highest of the high is being in the mode of Radharani. Be in the mood of Radharani. That's why these four guys, including Paranjan, Tim Lee, when he was in LA, he read this stupid book. They're so brainwashed. They become so brainwashed. They don't even know what they're reading and what it means or anything. They're just so brainwashed into this cult that they read about Lord Chaitanya dressing up like the gopis, and the gopis are this and that. So they just immediately dress up like gopis and sit around and read the Chaitanya Charitamrita dressed up like gopis. And Prabhupada hears about it and says, cut that shit out. I think he tried to kick him out because that was a big offense. That was like, to Prabhupada, that was like, to Prabhupada, that was like the truth getting out. To Prabhupada, that was like they found out the secret. And they weren't supposed to know that. They weren't supposed to know that. You're not supposed to do that. That shit comes later. That's like OT level 10 or something. That's like Xenu stuff. They jumped the gun. They leapfrogged way past what they were supposed to do. Because they found out. They found out the truth. They found out. They found out the truth. You think they just put on saris and gopis just on a whim? They're fully brainwashed into this cult. Fully brainwashed into this cult. Where they're shaving their heads, they're wearing a dhoti and a friggin' thing up their ass, the friggin' kopin up their ass, and they're putting stuff on their head with the ponytail, and they're chanting the beads, and they're getting up and they're wiping their ass with their hand, and they're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. They're doing all that shit. Why? Because it says to do it. Because it says that's what you got to do. So why did they put on saris and gopi dots and start prancing around like gopis in LA in secret? Why? Because they found out, they read somewhere, something somewhere, that that's what you do. When you get to a certain stage, you become a gopi. And I said this before in an earlier video when Radhakunda was telling me about when you die and you go to Goloka Vrindavan and you go back to Godhead. He goes, you don't just like, you're not just there. You don't just like bring and just like Star Trek into Goloka Vrindavan. You know, like Star Trek, like, you know, beam me into Goloka Vrindavan, and then they push a button and you're like, nah, and then you're just there. No, there's a whole thing. There's a whole ceremony. Everybody's lined up. The demigods, everybody's lined up. Krishna's at the end, and you walk the gauntlet. You walk in and you meet Krishna. It's a whole thing. You don't just beam in. You don't just you're there. You're a calf. You're a parrot. You're whatever. No, you walk in like you're meeting the king. The red carpet. Everybody's lined up. You walk in and everyone's there and it's exciting. And there's kirtan and everything's going on. And you walk up to Krishna and he hugs you and he kisses you and you get betel nut from his mouth into your mouth. Why does he kiss you? Because you're a gopi. You're a gopi now. Well, that's the goal. That's the goal, is to be a gopi. The goal isn't to be a cowherd boy or to be a parrot or to be a turtle or to be a flower or to be a blade of grass or to be any of those things. The goal is not to be Mother Yashoda or Vasudeva or Nanda Maharaj. You can be one of those. You can be that. Although I don't know how you can be Nanda Maharaj because somebody's already him. But you can be, you take your place in the pastimes of Krishna. You can be anything. Whatever you really are is what you're going to be there. So you can be a cowherd boy if you want. If you're in, what is that called? That rasa where you're the friendship rasa. There's the parent ras. I forget what they're called because it's been 12 years. But you can be parent ras. You can be boyfriend ras. You can be the child of Krishna ras. Or you can have the Madhurya ras, right? Madhurya ras is that love, that sex. The sex between the gopis. That's the highest, is the sex between the gopis. Because Krishna can't have sex with his mom. He can't have sex with the cowherd boys. He can't have sex with Nanda Maharaj. He can't have sex with the parrot and the goat and the calves. He can't have sex with them. He has sex with the gopis. So the highest thing you can be in Vrindavan is a gopi. And that's what Lord Chaitanya came to teach. Become a gopi. Be a gopi. Lord Chaitanya's, the Shikshastika, his 8 prayers. There's nothing higher than being a gopi. It's the perfection of life is to be in the mood of the gopis. Radharani, gopis. Where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? I want to have sex. I want to have sex. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? I'm horny. I'm horny. I'm horny. Could a new LGBT Chaitanya movement be created? There already is in India. There are. Prabhupada talks about them. That's what I'm talking about. There are these Chaitanya sects they dress up like gopis, they're homosexuals, they're transgender, whatever. There's a bunch of them. There's everything in India. I mean, you can find, there's everything. I mean, there's everything over there. But that's the highest, is to become a gopi. So if you become a gopi, when you finish Krishna consciousness and you've done everything, you've chanted 16 rounds and you got the thing on you and you got the tulsi in your mouth and they're chanting Hare Krishna and you hear the holy name in your ear, you're taking your last breath and you're thinking about Prabhupada and Krishna and whatever, and boom, there you go. Now you're a gopi and you're walking down. Next thing you know, you're a gopi and you're walking down the thing and everybody's cheering for you. Hey, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And you're walking down this thing and you're a gopi and Krishna's standing there and he's got his flute and he's like, hey, later I'll see you down by the river. Tonight, down by the river, okay? Move along. But next gopi. Tonight, down by the river. I'll see you there. Don't be late. You hear my flute? I'll see you. Is that about right, Anesh? Did I get it right? Did I leave anything out? Did I leave anything out? Anesh? So these four guys are dressing up like gopis because they heard about it, because it was written somewhere that that's what you do. They didn't make it up. They weren't making it up. If you hear my flute, shake that thing. Back that thing up. Back it up. Shake it, don't break it, baby. So, so let's see. Where were we in the Prabhupada story? I forget where we were. Oh, so these four guys are in L.A. and so Prabhupada kicks them out. He said, "I can't have that shit in my movement, my cult. You can't. First of all, you can't do shit that I'm not letting you do." So that was the first thing. You can't start doing stuff that I haven't said you can do. But I think the most important thing was they found out about something. They read something they weren't supposed to read, or they heard from somebody they weren't supposed to hear from, and Prabhupada didn't like that. No, can't do that. Can't do that. So, anyway, back to New York. So Prabhupada he's writing these books, and the movement starts to grow. He starts getting more and more these degenerates from New York, from the Bowery, these drunks and drug addicts, hippie rejects, who knows what these people are. A lot of them are young and they don't even know. A lot of them are like 16, 17. They don't even know what's up. They're 16, 17 years old. They're not even out of high school yet. Prabhupada's taking advantage of them. Some of them are in college, some of them are in high school. Some of them are a little older. Hayagriva was like in college, I guess. Maybe a teacher in college. But look, let me tell you, I'm not a cult member. Let's say I'm not a cult member. I've never been a cult member. And I'm just hanging out. I'm hanging out in Hollywood. I'm hanging out in wherever. And I hear that there is no Hare Krishna. The Hare Krishna doesn't exist. And I hear that there's some guy down at Venice Beach. Every Saturday down at Venice Beach, there's this Indian guy. You should come hear him. He's kind of cool. He sings these songs, plays a drum. Everybody's talking about him. I'd probably go check him out. I mean, I lived in Venice Beach. I used to check out a lot of people down in Venice Beach. No big deal. I'd probably go check him out. I'd be like, well, who's that guy? Who's that nut? A lot of people walking around checking him out, going, who's this guy? Who's that guy? That's not a big deal. I've seen people down in Venice Beach who are like walking on broken glass and they get a big giant crowd. I've seen people down in Venice Beach doing stupid magic tricks. They get a big crowd of people. I've seen people down in Venice Beach playing the piano. They get a big giant crowd in Venice Beach. I can imagine Prabhupada sitting in the park, playing his drums, singing some Indian songs, chanting, whatever. He got a big crowd. That's no miracle. That's no miracle. The miracle is that he was able to brainwash some hippies into following him. But that's not even a miracle. Charlie Manson brainwashed some hippies into following him. They were living in Chatsworth under a rock. They'd go out and murder people for fun. Convincing people to follow you that's not a big deal, especially in New York. Friggin' millions of people. There's friggin' millions of nuts. looking for somebody to follow. Charlie Manson, he had friggin' 24 people following him around, thinking he was something, ready to kill for him, and did kill for him. So, Prabhupada going to the park, sitting in the park, getting a crowd, convincing some hippies to join him and go back to his apartment and live with him and sell his books and that's no big deal. Manson did that. And if Manson hadn't killed anybody, if Manson had not killed anybody, Manson was just Charlie Manson. Helter Skelter Charlie Manson. If he had not killed anybody, and he was just living in that place with those hippies, and he just kept bringing people in, more and more people in, and he wasn't killing anybody, he was just bringing people in, and they're having sex everywhere, and they're doing drugs and having sex, that, you're going to tell me that place wouldn't have grown? He would have had friggin' 500 people in there. Manson would have had friggin' 5,000 people in there. As many people as would fit. It's no miracle. Jim Jones had fucking thousands of people move to Guyana and kill themselves. L. Ron Hubbard, the other guy, the Rajneesh, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh with his Rolls Royces, Mir Baba, Maharishi, Rama Krishna, Sai Baba, and others got this Sadhguru guy. Doing what Prabhupada did is not no big miracle. It's not like, it's not evidence of something. Like, only Prabhupada could do that, or only, it's got to be real because look how, no! Things happen. Guy started Apple computers in his garage. That's not even a big deal anymore because, you go look at all the things that have been started in their garage. Google, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft. Starting something in your garage is not a big deal anymore. Elon Musk, PayPal. So many successful things have started in their garage. Just because something starts in a garage and is successful doesn't mean, oh wow, look at that. Not anymore. Walt Disney started in his garage. And that was in 1919. So coming over from somewhere and creating a cult from scratch is not a big deal. That's not a big deal. It's not like, oh my God, look what Prabhupada did. In the scheme of things, he didn't do shit because Scientology is even bigger. As Scientology, there are Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses. Prabhupada is small compared to some of these big, giant cults. Prabhupada didn't do anything special. You watch one of these gurus that come into the airport, one of these real gurus. They'd have a big reception. The mayor. Prabhupada had 24 devotees making a stink in the reception room. Maharishi would have thousands of people. Prabhupada would have a dozen people. Prabhupada would go on a morning walk. He'd have 5 guys, 10 guys. Jim Jones, friggin' his security detail is bigger than that. Bigger than... Prabhupada was nothing, man. In the scheme of things, Prabhupada was nothing. But he did create a big, giant, disgusting fucking cult that protects child molesters and pedophiles and thinks that women love to be raped, and hates children and abuses kids, thinks that black people are stupid and ignorant and third class, and that shit pisses me off, man. When I heard about that racist shit, because you don't hear about that right off the bat. When I heard that shit when I heard that shit, my daughter's black. And I was just like, and I see black people, black devotees, and I'm like, what is up with this? This black people are less intelligent, and black people. I didn't know about the stay in the jungle, and should never have been given freedom. I didn't know about that, but he does say things about blacks that I read, and it bothered me. But I just was like, well, I guess I just don't. It's just another thing I don't understand. It's just another thing in Hare Krishna I don't understand. Because I don't understand how all you people don't think we landed on the moon. Like, how the fuck do you not think we landed on the moon? And then come to find out, they think the world's flat and it's sitting on some elephants, and the elephants are standing on a big turtle. There's elephants in orbit around the Earth that keeps it. And there's a demon head that's floating in outer space, and we can't see it. And every now and then it attacks the moon and eats it. All that? Oh, no wonder you think black people are stupid and ignorant and women like to be raped. Because you guys are out of your friggin' minds. You're out of your goddamn mind. And it wouldn't be so bad if they were just out of their mind. Like I was saying, if Charlie Manson was just doing drugs and having sex, who cares? But he wasn't. He was murdering people. So it's the same thing with the Hare Krishnas. If they were just chanting and having their... But they're not. They're molesting kids. They're promoting that women are stupid and like to be raped. We already have a problem with violence against women in this world. We already have a Me Too movement. They're trying to take the rights away, a women's right to choose, abortion, women's right to fertilization. They want to take all these rights away from women. We already have problems, right? Now you want to add on top. Now you want to just inject into that women are stupid and women have small brains and they like to be raped. Let's spread that around. Let's just spread that around and just get everybody to believe that too. What kind of world would we have if we had everybody believing that on top of what we already have? We already have a sexual assault, sexual violence, violence against... We already have a big enough problem as it is that we're trying to make better. Why would we want to screw that up saying that women like to be raped? And that women have small brains, and that women are less intelligent, and that women should not be given freedom, and that women should... I mean, you might as well put on a burqa and walk around like this. We already have a problem with women. We already have a problem with violence against women. And we're trying to take care of that. We're trying to fix that. We got the Me Too movement. We're changing the law so that women can prosecute going back for sexual violence that's been committed. They can now go back extra years so that the statute of limitations doesn't run out too soon, because women don't come out and I mean, it's a whole thing with trying to get justice for women. in this world, in the whole world. Even in the Western world where women have rights and women have, somewhat equality, we still have a big problem. We still have a long ways to go. And you want to go backwards with this archaic, women need to be protected by their husbands, women need to be protected by their fathers and their sons, women can't be given independence, women are less intelligent, women like to be raped. We're going to just throw that in there too? We're just going to add that in to all of our problems? And that's going to make things better? That's going to make the world happy and a better place? Let's all believe that, and we'll see how wonderful the world is for women and for kids. There's men out there that are not rapists, right? There's men out there that don't rape women because they don't want to get caught. They don't want to go to jail. They would do it, but they know the consequences are they don't want to do that. But given the opportunity, they would. There's a lot of rapists out there, would-be rapists, that are just waiting for the opportunity where they could rape a woman, and eventually they will. So think about those rapists out there that haven't raped anybody yet. They don't, the consequences, and then that, would be. It's like think of like a bank robber hasn't robbed a bank yet. He's planning. He's got his gun. He's got his note. He hasn't done it yet. He's still in the planning stages. So you think of a rapist like that, right? He hasn't done it yet. Then he hears this thing about, well, women like to be raped. Women like to be raped. They're stupid, they have small brains, and they enjoy it. Boom. I don't need any more. I don't need any more. I'm ready to go. You pushed me over the edge. That's all I needed. You don't think there's guys out there like that? You don't think there's guys out there that would just love to hear that women like to be raped? Oh, really? They like it? That's got to be one of the most disgusting, sinister, evil teachings I've ever heard from a spiritual or an organization or a church or anything, that women like to be raped. And anybody out there who is saying, well, he couldn't possibly have meant, yes, he did. He did mean rape, because he gives the definition of rape. When he says that women like to be raped, he makes it clear by giving the definition of rape. He says, taking a woman illegally, against her will, force. Otherwise, there is no rape. He makes it clear that he knows what he's talking about. He makes it clear he knows what he's talking about. He says rape. He says against her will. If it's not against her will, there's no rape. But then he turns around and goes, but they like it. He goes, either way, rape or not, she feels pleasure. That's what he says. It's the direct quote. Rape or not, the woman feels pleasure from this. And then he laughs. So I don't want to, I don't want anybody, a Nash or anybody talking about, well, he didn't mean rape. He absolutely meant rape. And he clarifies it, and he gives the definition of rape because he wants to make sure that you understand that he's saying what you think he's saying. Because if he wasn't saying what you think he's saying, it wouldn't be a big deal. If he was just saying, well, women like rough sex, he doesn't need to say that. He doesn't need to say that. Some women like rough sex, some women don't. Some guys like rough sex, some guys don't. He didn't need to say that. What point is he making? There's no point to make if he says women like rough sex. No, he says women like rape. He says rape, and then he defines rape. The illegal act of taking a woman against her will is rape. Otherwise, there is no rape. Prabhupada is not stupid. He's a cult leader, but he's not stupid. Devotees want to say how Prabhupada is so, he explains everything so well. You listen to his lectures and they go, listen to how he explains that verse. Listen to how he breaks down these words. Look how he gives you the synonyms, and he gives you the Roman transliteration. He gives you the verse in Sanskrit. Then he breaks down every word into its synonym, definition of each word. Then he gives you the translation of the verse. Then he gives you the purport, and he explains that verse for 4 pages. But all of a sudden, when he says the word rape, he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's what they want you to believe. They want you to believe that he wrote friggin' 50 volumes of books where he gives you the verse in Sanskrit, the transliteration into English, the English translation, the word-for-word translation, the verse translation, and then 4 pages explaining a 2-sentence verse. But when it came to the word rape, that threw him for a loop. That one word, he had no idea what he was saying. That word completely confused Prabhupada. He didn't know. That one word. There's only one word in the English language that Prabhupada was completely confused about, and that's the word rape. Because when he said women like to be raped, he didn't know what he was talking about. That's their answer. That's how they explain it. Because there is no other explanation. There is absolutely no other explanation for Prabhupada to say women like to be raped. And that's exactly what he said. So they have to figure out a way to make him not say that when he clearly said it. So it's kind of like 1984. Don't believe what you're reading. Don't believe your eyes and ears. Believe what we say. When Prabhupada says women like to be raped and then gives you the definition of rape, he didn't really know what he was talking about. But we know what he was talking about. So just believe us when we explain what he was talking about. We can Prabhupada explain it for you. We can Prabhupada explain for you. Everything else is self-evident. Every friggin' sentence in his books is completely self-evident. They say, don't change one word, Prabhu. Oh, you can't change Prabhupada's words. Look how succinctly he explains that verse when he says that the flower has petals and the petals are worshiping Lord Chaitanya. Even the flower petals bow and offer their obeisances to Lord Chaitanya. And then Prabhupada, look how Prabhupada explains that verse so well. You know how many times I heard people tell me that Prabhupada understood English better than English teachers and English professors? That Prabhupada was an expert at the English language? That Prabhupada could speak English better than any English-speaking person? But Prabhupada doesn't understand the word rape. Prabhupada evidently didn't understand the word child abuse either, because when in 1977 at the Kumbh Mela in India, in Haridwar, they brought Satyadhana, who they caught, or in Vrindavan, I forget where it was, they brought Satyadhana, who was molesting all the boys in the school. They brought him to Prabhupada. And they said, Prabhupada, we caught him. He's been molesting all the boys in the school. What should we do with him? Oh yes, he must go away. But he can come back on Sunday. Make sure he has enough to eat. Now, if that's not protecting a pedophile, I don't know what is. The first thing out of Prabhupada's mouth should have been, call the police and have him arrested. And then bring all the children to me. Or, pack up, let's go. I want to go see the kids. And bring all their parents to me. I want all the kids and all their parents. I want to meet with them. He didn't do that. Did he say, close down the school and let's get these kids back to their parents? No. He didn't say any of that. He didn't do any of that. He didn't give a fuck about those kids. He didn't give a fuck about those kids. He didn't give a fuck about his wife. He didn't give a fuck about those kids. He didn't give a fuck about his own kids. All you Hare Krishnas out there, watching this video, because I know you're watching, you've heard about me and that I'm doing these videos, and you're coming in here to watch and see what I'm saying. That's who you're following. This is the asshole that you're following that you think is a pure devotee, self-realized soul. Self-realized. He was so friggin' self-realized that he didn't give a shit about the kids. He didn't give a shit. Didn't give a shit about the parents. The parents of the kids were his disciples. He didn't even care. He didn't even care that the children of his own disciples were molested. Bring me the kids. I want to give them cookies. That's the only time he cared about the kids, is when he could give them cookies and make it look like he was the granddad. Granddad handing out cookies. And all the little kids could run around, I got a Prabhupada cookie, I got a Prabhupada cookie. That's the only time he cared about those kids. He didn't give a fuck about those kids. The only time he cared about those kids when it was Guru Puja, and they brought the kids in, and they all chanted and danced in front of him, and then they'd bring him the cookies on a plate, and he'd sit there with the cookie plate, and he'd hand the kids out a cookie. Each one got a cookie. And then the kids would run off with their cookie, and that was it. And he never thought about those kids again. That's who you're following. That's the man you call your guru, your sampradaya acharya, your self-effulgent acharya, guru, sampradaya, whatever the fuck you call him. Fucking prick. And those teachings, all those teachings about women like to be raped and women are less intelligent and women are 9 times lustier than men and all of that crap and abusing the kids and not giving a fuck about the kids and all of that. You know what ended up happening? You know what ended up happening? My daughter got molested. My daughter got molested. And what happened to the molester? They protected him. They let him go away. And nothing happened to him. Gee, I wonder why. Where did they get that idea from? Where did they get the idea that child molesters can just go away? They can just go away. We don't call the police. We don't report abuse. It'll give me a bad name. Hell, I'm the Sampradaya Acharya. I'm the head of ISKCON. People bow to me. People wash my feet and drink the water. I can't have child abuse in my school, in my organization. I'm the self-effulgent Acharya. I'm the Acharya of the Yuga Dharma, whatever the fuck. I can't have child abuse. I can't have anybody know that these kids were abused. You think he really thought no one was going to know that these kids, like these kids weren't going to grow up. Like these kids weren't going to grow up and say, this guy abused me. This guy knocked my teeth out. This guy raped me. This guy raped me, and this guy raped me. And they were raping me together. Prabhupada didn't think that those kids were going to grow up. Just like the gurus today don't think that these kids are going to grow up. They don't think these kids are going to grow up. There's abuse going on in India right now. The 8 and 9-year-old girls are being abused in a temple. There was a riot because they tried to stop it. And the people that were trying to stop the abuse got beat. Why? Where is that coming from? Gee, I don't know. Maybe we're not supposed to call the police on the abusers. Maybe we're supposed to protect the abusers and not make waves. Maybe we're supposed to keep quiet when these things happen. Maybe we're not supposed to give a fuck about the kids. And that's why. Why would... When the kids were being molested in Prabhupada's presence, he didn't give a shit. When they were being molested after Prabhupada left and the new gurus were in charge, they didn't give a shit. When my daughter was molested in the 90s, they didn't give a shit. And when that girl was molested in the 2000s, who's now 20-something years old, they didn't give a shit about her either. And now, just last month, these girls are being molested in India, and they don't give a fuck about them either. Why is that? They've had 50 years to figure out the right thing to do when children are molested. They didn't learn the right thing to do when Prabhupada was here, and they didn't learn the right thing after he passed away. They didn't learn the right thing to do when the new gurus took over, and they didn't do the right thing when they tried to reform the gurus. Because first there were 11 gurus, and then there were 80 gurus. They thought that if they went from 11 to 80, that would solve the problem. Oh, that'll solve the problem. We got 11 pedophile gurus. You know what? If we make 80 pedophile gurus, maybe that'll solve the problem. Yeah, increasing the number of pedophiles always solves the problem. And all you Hare Krishnas out there watching this video, man, you guys don't get it. After all this time, years and years and years of abuse, of child abuse, of domestic abuse, and all you Hare Krishna women out there watching this video, and you know you're getting beat. You know your husbands are whacking you around. They're slapping you around, and you know it. You know it. I know it. I was in it for 20 fucking years. I know how they treat their women. I seen it. You think that a man who thinks that you like to be raped and that you're less intelligent and you're 9 times lustier than him, you think he respects you at all? You think anybody in the Hare Krishna cult respects you? A woman? You are lower than a worm in stool in the Hare Krishna movement, to coin a phrase. It's funny to watch the viewer their drugs as soon as they realize you can see who's watching. The funny thing is, I can't see who's watching, but I know they're there. I know they're there, and I know some are still watching. Because they're in a cult, and they don't all want to be in a cult. There are a lot of people out there that are going to watch my video and go, you know what, he's right, but I don't know what to do about it. The children are being abused. I am getting smacked around by my husband. He is right. It is in the books. It is all over the place. He is right. I'm not happy. I'm miserable. He is right. The chanting doesn't do anything. He is right. These gurus are full of shit. He's absolutely right. But they don't know what to do about it. They don't know what to do about it. Just like I didn't know what to do about it. So I understand. And all of you people out there that are watching me and you don't know what to do about it, you got to figure it out. Do you want to protect this cult? Do you want to protect these gurus? Do you really want to do that? You can enjoy Indian culture. You can enjoy Indian mythology. I do. I'm not in a cult. I don't believe these things are real. But I respect the things, the ideas that they represent, and I respect the idea that people have respect them too. And I've said that from the beginning. Just because I say it's a four-headed guy growing out of a flower, that doesn't mean that I don't respect the people that respect that, or respect that symbolism, or even if you want to believe it's real, that's part of your culture. But you can believe it's real, and you don't have to be in a cult. You don't have to be in a child-protecting cult. You can believe there's a demon head. You can believe the earth is flat, sitting on 4 elephants, standing on a turtle if you want. I don't care. But you don't have to be in a cult. There's a lot of people who believe the earth is flat. They're not in a cult. There's a lot of people don't think we landed on the moon. They're not in a cult. They're just crazy. They're just crazy. So you can believe that stuff. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's a hobby. It makes you happy. I go to temples. I go to India and I go to temples. And I show my respect. Because that's what you do. I'm not an a-hole. I don't go to Indian temple. I don't go to India and go to Indian temple and stand there and go, hey man, it's a cult. I don't do that. I go to India, I like anybody, like any other respectful person. But I know the difference between a temple and a cult. And I'm talking to all the people out there who are in this friggin' cult. I'm talking to the people in this cult. You don't have to be in a cult. You like chanting. You like going to the temple. You like the Indian music. You like all that stuff. You like the philosophy. Fine. You just don't have to be in this cult protecting pedophiles, protecting bogus gurus that molest kids. You don't have to be in a cult that promotes the idea that women like to be raped. You don't have to believe that women like to be raped to go to the temple and put a flower down in front of Krishna. You don't have to believe that there's a demon head floating in space that's eating the moon to go and get some prasadam from the temple. Or go say a prayer. You don't have to do, there's no requirement. Absolutely none. There's no requirements. You want to have a relationship with Krishna? You think he plays a flute? Fine. That's between you and Krishna and his flute. But you don't have to be in a goddamn cult promoting the idea that women like to be raped, that neglect kids, that abuse their children, that have these incredible, horrible teachings. That's the point. And Prabhupada is the one who started this cult, who propagates this cult, whose teachings are disgusting, whose followers hang on his every word, and want to spread this crap all over the world and harm people all over the world. People from all over the world are taking their kids and sticking them in these schools in India because they think that's what Prabhupada wants them to do. And he kind of does. So you can go play Hare Krishna. So you can go play Hare Krishna, man. They want you to put your kids And I know some of you watching, put your kids in the school. Some of you watching probably put your kids in the school, and your kids probably got abused like mine. And you probably blame some guy. You don't blame the cult. You don't blame the teachings. You don't blame Bhaktivedanta pedophile. You don't blame him, even though he was 22 years old and had sex with an 11-year-old girl. That couldn't possibly have anything to do with it. The fact that the founder of this cult was 22 years old and had sex with an 11-year-old girl, didn't give a shit about his wife or his kids, that couldn't possibly have anything to do with his teachings, could it? I appreciate your open thinking. You're making a valid point. Yeah, and hey, look, dude, I'm sorry if I got excited and got excited, but that's what I do. I get excited. My daughter was molested by these fucking freaks. And I ain't got patience for anybody to come in here and try to tell me I'm wrong. Zero patience for anyone coming in here trying to tell me I'm wrong when I live this crap. I lived it. I lived it all. All the bullshit, the fakery, the forgery, and the abuse. I will forever be the father of a girl who got abused by the Hare Krishnas. That's never going away. And she will forever be a child that got abused by the Hare Krishnas. That's never going away. And the 2,000 kids that got molested by the Hare Krishnas, that's never going away. That's never being wiped clean. I'm never going back to being a normal guy whose child was not abused by a cult. It's not happening. I'm always going to be the guy whose daughter was abused and molested by the Hare Krishnas. And their goddamn disgusting fucking teachings. And their disgusting books, and their disgusting gurus, and their disgusting founder. I'll always be that guy. And I'll always be angry about it. I'll never be happy about it. So yeah, I'm sorry if I get excited. I'm not directing this anger or anything at any individual person unless you're coming in here and trying to challenge me. This isn't a challenge. So, just like I started this thing apologizing and saying, hey, I'm sorry if I get excited and I get upset, and here I am getting excited and getting upset. So again, I apologize to anybody out there. But that's why. That's why. I don't have patience for anybody coming in here telling me I'm wrong. The whole goal of this religion sounds like a Japanese anime where a loser outcast main character dies and goes to the magic world and is suddenly a hero and has a harem. It is very much like that. It's very much like that. And that's why I call it the Hindu Taliban. I still enjoy taking photos, traveling around, seeing various Hindu temples, philosophy, and food. Yeah, hey, you and I are on the same wavelength. I go to India. I've been to India like 3 times in the last 2 years. And I love it. And I go to Vrindavan where all the Hare Krishna freaks are. And I stay away from them. I don't engage with them. I don't want anything to do with them. I don't talk to them. I don't tell them they're in a cult. I completely have nothing to do with the Hare Krishna cult. But I'll be damned if I'm not going to talk about my experiences and my life. You know what? If you wanted me to speak more highly of the Hare Krishna cult, your cult should have treated me better. It's not my fault that your cult abused me and my daughter and fed me a bunch of lies and a bunch of bullshit. It's not my fault. You guys did that. And now I'm talking about it. And maybe if your cult wasn't so disgusting, and sinister and evil, I wouldn't be doing this. But here we are. So, yeah, I think I've ranted long enough. I mean, almost 3 hours, of this. But I really find it like it's like therapy for me. It really is, because I never went through therapy for this. I went through therapy I went through like grief therapy, and actually, interesting enough, I did go through therapy. I went through therapy when my wife passed away. I started therapy, and I liked it, and I was a Hare Krishna. And I was a Hare Krishna, and my wife passed away, and I went into therapy, and I was going to a therapist once a week, and sometimes I'd go dressed like a Hare Krishna because I was a Hare Krishna, and I was telling him about being a Hare Krishna, and then like in 2 years, 9, 10, 11, yeah, like 2 years, 2.5 years into therapy, I start to break away from the cult. And I'm in there, and I'm not really telling him about it because my mother is sick and passing away, and so I'm in there talking about. I'm back talking about grief. I went in there talking about grief with my wife passing away, and 2 years later, my mom's passing away, and she's in the hospital and she's sick, and the doctors are like, she's going to go. And now I'm in therapy, and now the whole thing has changed from I'm getting over my wife. Like, it took me like 2 years to get over my wife. I'm making progress, and then bam, my mom passes away, and I'm back into grief therapy again. But because I've been in therapy for 2 years, I handled it much better. I was able to handle my mom's passing. And at the same time as my mom's passing is when I made the break from the Hare Krishna. So I had two things going on at the same time. My mom passing away and leaving the Hare Krishnas. And getting death threats. And getting smeared on the internet. Everything all happening at the same time. And police reports. And moving. And the whole thing. All going on at the same time. So that is like just so traumatic that I was too busy with the therapist going over talking about my mom passing away. And then all of a sudden I'm out of the Krishnas. And I remember I walked in one day to my therapist, and I had gotten a new job, and I walked in, and I'm like, my hair's growing out. I'm not bald. I'm not shaved anymore. My hair's growing out, and I don't have the beads on. And he looked at me, and he's like, hey. And I said, I'm not in the Krishnas anymore. I'm out. And he was just like, whoa. And I said, well, I guess you could take credit. I said you could take credit for that because I saw you when I was a Krishna, and now I'm not a Krishna, and I guess you I guess you had something to do with it. He didn't really, but I mean I guess he did because he was he helped me through therapy, but he wasn't deprogramming me or anything. He wasn't helping me get out in any way. So it was a joke when I said, you could take credit for it because I was a Hare Krishna and now I'm not, and you're my therapist. You're my therapist, and you could put an ad, you can add deprogramming. You can add cult deprogramming to your the list of things that you do. Marriage therapy, family therapy, grief therapy, cult therapy. So I guess I'll leave it there. So that's And I would recommend therapy to anybody, because even if you feel fine, you have no, I don't know who that person is, but even if you're feeling fully fine, 100% fine, you're 100%, you are correct and spot on, you're exposing the cult 100%. Thank you. Thank you for the encouragement. If you're not in therapy, if you never had therapy, and even if you're not having any problems in your life, and I don't know who doesn't have any problems in their life, but even if you feel like, hey, I don't need therapy, just going in and talking to a therapist, you wouldn't think that a therapist could really help you because they don't know you, but that's the whole point. If you talk to your family or your friends, and you go, hey, I got this thing on my mind, and I just wanted to, they like you, and they don't want to see you depressed, and they don't want to see you in any kind of mental situation, because they care about you, but they don't know how to help you. They barely know how to help themselves. Like if you gave all your problems to that person, they wouldn't know what to do. But they got ideas because it's not their problem. So they're like, oh, I would just do that. I would just do that. But it's not their problem. So, but you gave that person your problem, they wouldn't know what to do. So, talking to a therapist is you're actually talking to someone who knows what to say. They actually know how to lead the conversation, how to, you say, oh, my mom's about to die and I don't know what to do, I'm really upset. And your friend says, yeah, I'm really sorry, I know how you feel, I went through that. And you go, that doesn't help me. You go, oh, thank you, but you didn't get anything out of that. But a therapist can actually lead you. They're not going to just say that. They're going to probe, and they're going to just, it's a completely different conversation. And even though you're paying them, they're a doctor. It's just like if you were to go, you broke your hand, you're going to go pay the guy to fix your hand. So you're paying the guy to listen to you. And just the fact that there's someone there listening to you, it opens up another world. And even, like I said, I was in there for 2 years. I completely got over the grief. Well, not completely got over it, but I got over the grief. I was now talking to the guy about stuff that had nothing to do with why I went there. I was just enjoying talking to the guy. I was just like, I couldn't wait to have a conversation with the guy. Because it wasn't like talking to my friend. It wasn't like talking to my mother, or my father, or my friend, or my daughter, or a coworker. I was talking to a doctor who actually specializes in that thing, in listening. So anybody out there, if you're in a cult, or you're just, even if you're happy, I would recommend going and having a therapy session. Just try it out. I'm not saying you need it, but it could help. It could help you just be happier. Just like anything else could help you be happy. Just like chanting could help you be happy. Going to a Dodger game. Hey, Dodgers. Just going to a Dodger game would make you happy. But therapy could make you happy. It was making me happy. I was just like, I was enjoying it. And then my mom passed away. And then it was like it started all over again. So I'm gonna end with that. If you're in a cult, I would definitely go see therapy. I would definitely go see a therapist. And even if you don't want to leave, I would just say go talk to a therapist. And you can tell them about, I'm in this cult, and this is what we do. And get an idea what a therapist thinks. It's not bad. It's not a bad thing. All us karmis out here in the real world, we're not bad people. We're not bad people. So anyway, that's my final message. Is therapy can be a good thing, even if you don't need it. It can still be a good thing. And I want to thank everybody for watching, man. I want to thank you. If you learned something, I'm grateful. I'm great. I'm happy that you learned something. Um, if I got on your case and was angry and yelling and screaming, I'm sorry about that, but that's who I am. And you'll learn to like it, and you'll learn to want to see me get angry. You're gonna learn to love it. You're gonna learn to really look forward to me losing my cool. That's gonna be the main. That's gonna be like the highlight of the show. And I know I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna look at these videos, and I'm gonna see the most replayed part is gonna be when I'm like, bah! So I enjoy doing these videos. I enjoy letting everyone know what it's like to be in a cult, and that I was in it for 20 years. I've been out for 12. And if anybody has any questions, you can leave a question for me in the comment. Again, thank you, everybody. Like, share, and subscribe. Spread the word. Hare Krishna is a cult. If you're in a cult, try to get out. Have a great day. Have a great night. Have a great morning, a great afternoon, wherever you are. And stay out of a cult.